Welcome back to another Reading and Correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. And if you are looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today we are doing chapter 43 of The Technician's Fight. Gralgiran punched and used Brel's block to step into her space and slam his shoulder into her chest, then stepped back to catch his breath. I'm worried. She gave him a dismissive flick of the ears. You always worry. I'm the alpha. It's unbecoming of me to worry about what they're doing to Jer. He'll be fine. She attacked, keeping him from replying or even thinking as she struck quickly, then stepped back while he gasped for breath. He found that stamina management wasn't as effective when his opponent knew him enough to time her attack while he sought to recuperate, and left him in a position of deciding if he used while the time she got her breath to continue or take advantage of her building exhaustion. He attacked with fist and palm strike, pushing until he had a hand on her wrist and pulled her off balance. Then he had a knee on her chest and claws at her throat. I win. I expected you to wait. He helped her to her feet, which is why I pressed. I'm not sure how practical stamina management is when fighting someone who's on the same level. We know how the engagements go, which is why breaking the rhythm can be an advantage. He nodded. Or maybe I'm just distracted. It's been 4 days. Have faith in your little warrior, Gral. He's tough. She raised her fist. He readied himself for the attack and did what he could not to worry. What am I looking at? He asked, trying... That would not be capitalized. He asked, trying to make something of the diagram projected in the center of the workroom. Insanity, the builder replied in a disgusted huff. I can't tell if whoever made this understands nothing of electronics work, or if their understanding is of it, or I don't need of it, or if their understanding is beyond anything I know. And this is Earther Tech, he asked. That was what he'd ask a report on, where they stood on his understanding how the machine used on Jer and the other test subject worked. Maybe? Another builder said. She brought up more diagram. That's Earther Tech. There's no doubt about it. You can tell from the uniformity of their design. And the fact this same circuit shows up across 12 different sections of the ship, another added, which have nothing to do with each other. That too. She added, Earther's love of making everything the same is useful in that way. She brought back the diagram. And in making this stand out, there's nothing like this anywhere on the ship. A dedicated design for this function, then? It's a theory, she replied. A bad one, Builder Atarikna Drugdramar said. She brought up a new diagram. Earther reactor antimatter containment circuit. Not something that's needed anywhere else on a ship or a station or anywhere. There's no reason for this to look so much like that, a new diagram. Life support management circuit. They weren't identical, that was easily noticeable, but even with his lack of technical knowledge, he saw the similarities. Same size, same components, and many of the same location. Where did you get those? He asked, counting the differences. Only 7. The containment circuit is from Jeremy's drafting table. He gave me access when we started when he asked. Wow. When he asked for my help. Really? For my help with his weight machine. Been poking in, asking him question about the thought process behind some of his designs. He chuckled. Yeah, I'd be careful he doesn't start sleeping with just Billiam. Some of the stuff in there is out there. But be- from talking with him, Earthers start a build with components that already exist, then change that as needed to get to whatever the different functions work to wherever to however. Yeah. To however the different functions work. And that isn't how you do it. Only if what I'm making is nearly identical to what that other circuit's doing, the first builder said. And that has nothing to do with that. Not even close. I checked with engineering. I wouldn't have looked at anything I've previously built to make that containment circuit. Maybe it's the case with that? Gralgiran asked. Except it contradicts how the Earthers think, the builder said. I'd expect to find aspects of some other circuits in there. Something I'd find a version elsewhere among all the scans we made of the ship. Just like we can find everything else. Just like we can for everything else, Builder Atomic. Okay. I am going to have to go back over this in second draft because I'm barely naming anyone. I've lost track of who actually is talking. Builder Adarikna Drugdormar said, not everything links to everything else, but everything can be linked to something else. Except that, the first builder said, which means they took this tech from another species. Gralgiran went over what he knew about the machine and others like it. But Bob had known a little from those used on him. Isn't one of them something the Earthers found on a Tahunian ship? Is it their tech? Leaving aside that what Tahunians use started as something stolen from someone else, this doesn't match anything of theirs the Federation has on record. Which species does it match? That's the problem. We had to be careful with the search since we don't have official access to this piece of tech, but we haven't found anything matching this, not even among Ridoshi tech. And if there's one species who thinks nothing like we do, it's them. Like no one else thinks. Another builder added, is this if this is nothing like nothing anyone makes, even the Earthers, how can it work in their machine? By adding these. Builder Atarikna Drogdomar zoomed out the diagram until and 7 other components became visible. Those Gralgiran recognized as Earther tech easily. Those act as translators of sorts, taking what that does and making it work with the rest of their tech. How do they know how it needs to be translated? He asked. Trial and error is the only way I can think of, a builder said. How do you trial and error something you know nothing about? He asked, puzzled. You connect it to your test subject and see what happens. Gralgiran stared at the builder in horror. That's going to give you failure more often than success. The male nodded. And Bob had told them those machines had been used on the soldiers within the ship over and over with various results. He shuddered. How did they manage to reproduce this if they don't understand it? The same way we do it. We'd do it, a builder said. Feed the scan to a printer. All the information's there. We recognize every molecule in it. We just don't understand how the interactions produce what we've been told the end result is. So we have a piece of technology that's alien to anything we have on record that not just one, the builder brought up 10 other schematics, and that's not even the most interesting part. She brought up another schematic, something more complex. That's the scan of the machine used on your heart. These 11 pieces are found inside that section. It highlighted, which with everything else attached to the whole. What does that mean? Nothing, a builder said. Everything, another said another. Anything we say is conjecture, Builder Atarikna Drogdromar said. Our guess is that what was used on Jeremy was something closer to the original device. But that was less than a year ago. How did the Earthers go from that to something this complex in this little time? 2 possibilities. The first one is they did a lot of tests and they have I don't know how many citizens with their brains hollowed out. Gralgiran shuddered. The other one? They gave an older version to those who used it on Jeremy. Why would they do that? The builders exchange uncomfortable looks. Speak up before I order you. We work with machines, not people, a builder says. But we can't help thinking what would lead us to do that with what this hints at. And what did you decide? He demanded. The only reason I'd hand over older tech is if the goal of the person I'm handing it to don't align with mine, but he's important enough, I still want to keep him on my good side. You're saying the other government isn't behind Jer's kidnapping and the use of the machine on him? We don't know. That's just how we'd approach the situation. If not them, then who? The builders gave a shrug. You know what? The builders all shrugged. Cursor. There you are. There's the button. There we go. And and who is this? Gralgiran asked Batrix, looking at the image of the Earthers. The file identified him as a doctor named Owan Sawan. His name is mentioned in the hunter's report. That would be plural. Including your hearts. From what the Earther said, he intended to use one of the machines on him and that it would fix him completely. He looked at his tablet. Hunter carried them Dronikal Oshal got the sense there was a this time implied. This could mean the Earther was involved in what happened to your heart before. Did Jer mention him at any point during that investigation? The Federation files on it indicate that he didn't know anyone involved. Gralgiran nodded. So this might be something else. Was it? Where is the male now? Unknown. He isn't one of the prisoners, which means he was able to escape the hunters when they swept the station for stragglers. The thought didn't sit well. His hunter had training, tech, and their senses, but the station was large and a section blocked from scans, and they had been short on time. Someone with prior knowledge of it, like someone who lived and worked there, could know of places to hide in to prevent discovery. Could know where to hide to prevent discovery. Any reason to think he isn't directly supported by his government? Nothing that's been decrypted at this point indicates his government is behind the station or the mail's research. He claimed the research was part of his justification to continue looking for your heart, but the wording doesn't indicate it was to his government. Names of corporations and extensive families have been found in the data, but we don't have access to Earther's database to find out if they have ties to their government. How does the data show you the families are extensive? Surnames. Earthers attach importance to their lineage, so use a name to identify that lineage. Bradshaw is your heart's lineage. The census we collected at the Earther station Einstein gives us a sense of family size. Kennedy, Rockefeller, and Barbosa are three lineage the data shows are involved in paying for the station. Each lineage counts its numbers in the billions within Earther territory. The number was more than Gralgiran could fathom as the size of a family. He doubted any Kelsirian's family could approach those numbers. Not that he knew how they'd go about finding out. He could name 2 dozen of his family members, his parents, their parents, his brothers and sisters, a few of their mates, all their children. He knew 2 of his father's siblings, one of his mother's, as well as her Kelsirian, but he was aware they had more. Everyone else would be able to name more, but how quickly would it be impossible to know who was related to whom, short of comparing genetic material? So far as anything your pack has sniffed out. So, there's a comma here. As far as anything your pack has sniffed out as part of the investigation, this was funded by private parties who this Dr. Omar Sawan might have lied to so he could continue hunting Jer. Any link between them? He would have remembered the name if Jer had said it. The male was your heart's doctor on Einstein. There were no personal files in what was gathered, so there's no way to know if that is the limit of their connection. If he's going as far as using technology, even they might not understand in an attempt to cure the entire Federation. There has to be... Okay, wait, that's actually not proper. As far as using technology, just... If he's going as far as using technology, even they might not understand in an attempt to cure the entire Federation just to reach Jer, there has to be something there. I'll ask this. I'll ask him once he's done with his training. I'd suggest you give him time to heal from it, Alpha. I don't know if you remember, but that first session is difficult. Gralgiran rolled on his back, nudging Tom and making Brel grumble in his other side, and stared at the ceiling. 5 days, and no way to know how many more until Jer returned to him. Okay. The way my co-scriptor reacted to that points out I need to indicate because the way he read it, it gives the impression that Gralgiran invited a female to his bed. While it is correct that she's there, he didn't invite a female, he invited all his friends. Okay, where the hell is that key? There you are. He'd hoped having all his friends in his bed for the night would keep him from worrying. What state would... Okay, at that point, this needs to quote. Would Jer be in? The whimper escaped and Brel shifted, turning. What's wrong? I'm scared for him, he whispered. What if he breaks down? She forced him to look at her, and he turned. Behind him, Tom moved and put an arm over his side. Others rumbled as they adjusted. He will break. You know that. I don't need this. He will break. You know that. That is the point of what they are putting him through. Just like you and me and every other hunter. They're showing him that no matter how strong-willed he thinks he is, how much he believes in protecting you, us, in the end, he will break and tell them everything they want to know. It's the only way to teach us how to make sure it won't happen again. What if I made a mistake? He couldn't keep that fear away. What if Jer still didn't understand why? That Gralgiran. Okay, that's a period. That Gralgiran wouldn't. Actually, no, it's not a period. It's a question mark. You know what? Let's make it easy on me. There we go. The Gralgiran wouldn't think any less of him for what he'd revealed to his trainers. She nuzzled him. If you can't trust the gods, trust your little warrior. No matter what he looks like when you see him next, he will be stronger by the time it's over. Tom nuzzled the back of his neck. We're all going to love him just as much. Nothing will ever change that. And the others reached over one another to touch him and reassure him he and Jer weren't alone. And with their comforting, Gralgiran was able to sleep. And that concludes chapter 43 of The Technician's Fight. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter will be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read this story, as well as the previous book, it is available on Ream Story. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, on Twitch and YouTube. Links are in the notes, and with that, I shall wish you a good day.